the bullying that happened in school was just like, you just get tired of that. And eventually, you know how it is. Like nowadays, it's a little bit different. When we went to school, you had to face the bully. You might have had to fight him every single day, maybe for a year, until finally he got enough or you got enough and y'all go ahead and squashed it. But at home, it's just that competitiveness. It's like, man, the food coming to the table. My brother tapped me on the shoulder. I turn, chicken wing gone. I tap on his shoulder, boom, cornbread gone. So.
All right, we got the legendary Tony Richardson if you're nasty. And this is another edition of Up On Game Presents Conversations with a Legend. I'm LaVar Arrington, and man, one of the dudes that, well, I enjoyed watching your film. I didn't enjoy playing against you. I mean, one of them guys they called the battering ram, a thumper of sorts, a dude that did the dirty work, played fullback. And I mean, your resume speaks for itself, T. Rich. I mean, you've been with multiple 1,000-yard rushers, from Priest Holmes to Larry Johnson to Thomas Jones to Adrian Peterson. You did it all, and it's interesting because this show, this podcast, is really about everything that leads up to what you're able to accomplish. Everything about what your feelings and your thoughts are on being a person. And that's why it's Conversations with a Legend. And I want to start with the fact that you're a military kid, and I respect that because I'm a military kid too. And your background brings you all the way from Germany, I believe, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you spent the first 8 years of your life in Germany and didn't even get into football until later on in high school, correct?
Yep, definitely.
All right. So first off, talk to me about how you doing first. Like, yeah. I get excited when I start throwing out accolades, but how are you doing? How have you been? What are you up to? I see you got the Legend shirt on. Yeah. What's going on with Tony Rich?
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to, say it's great to link up. It's funny that, we play against each other all these years. Sometimes we run into each other at events and all that, but to be able to see the man, the myth himself, and the same thing, like you get ready to play and you're like, okay, all right, I know about this guy, I know about this guy. This guy here's a problem starter, so we need to put the hat on him because he can disrupt our game plan. So obviously it's an honor to be on the show with you. And yeah, man, I'm living in New York, working with Tracy Perlman and her team with the Legends community. So my territory is the Northeast coordinator, and for me, just to have that ability to be able to serve our brothers. Some guys from a mentor standpoint that's currently playing, but more importantly, as our guys transition off the field. So I think Tracy, Troy Vincent, obviously, who's a really dear friend of yours, Leonard Willier, the list goes on and on. We just really want to support our brothers. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now, man. Just that's what moves the needle in my life. Serving our brothers, making sure they're doing well. If there's anything we can do from the league standpoint to support them, we want to be there to be there, just to be that voice or be that person that can help them any way possible.
That's awesome. So that's you full time on that. That's beautiful. And you've always been that type of guy. Anybody who knows you knows that you're like the protector. You're like the brotherly figure. Let's just talk a little bit about where that came from. I mean, being a fullback, clearly you have to be wired differently to be able to do that job. And you're a sophisticated, cerebral dude, super highly intelligent dude. You're not one of those guys where it's like, hit wall, see wall, go through wall. Like, you're cerebral. So it really doesn't match your mental makeup to be a fullback. How did this all come about?
Man, it's so funny. That's probably one of the best questions and one of the questions I used to get all the time, because a lot of the boys be like, man, T. Rich, I really don't like you. And I'm like, dude, what you talking about? It's like, man, because off the field, man, you got your tie on, you got your nice suit. But then when you snap the helmet, man, you're a different dude, man. I mean, and Cass was like, dude, I don't know how you turn that switch on. And I think it has a lot to do with, much like yourself, having that military background. So a little bit of my story, I was born in Frankfurt, Germany, and we moved from Frankfurt. I lived there for 2 years. We moved to El Paso for 3 years, back to Germany for 3 years, Fort Knox, Kentucky for 3 years, back to Germany for 3 years, and finally in Alabama. And I tell a lot of people I'm the youngest of 7, but I got bullied as a kid just because, you know how it is, traveling around and always having to be the new kid on the block. You stand up in front of your, in front of your peers in elementary school, and they're laughing at you because maybe your pants are too tight, shoes too small. So I kind of had to build that extra shell of like, eventually you kind of had to just stand up for yourself. But I think a lot of that determination and everything came from my dad, just because, he ended up retiring as a sergeant major. And just to see him every single day get up, go to work, take care of the family, provide, serve our country, it kind of taught me a little bit about having that grit. And I think that's what made me really kind of, I guess, get it from a fullback standpoint. Because like you said, fullback is not, that's not the position that a lot of cats want to sign up for. That's like work your mouthpiece, put your chin strap on and go get it. So I think that's where I got a lot of mentalities, just from my mom, my dad, and, just obviously getting beaten up by my brothers and sisters, and a little bit of that bullying kind of, had to force me to kind of have to be a little different.
Now, did you get bullied at school? Was it purely that being the new kid, as you mentioned, or did you get bullied by your older siblings? Because, I'm raising multiple kids right now, and they will go ham on one another at times. And it's very competitive in our house.
Yeah.
Was it more so outside of the house? What made you turn into a fullback? Like, that's extreme. Like, that means, what that says to me is that you turned into a dude that was about whooping ass, and rather than taking it and running and hiding and needing help all the time. Yeah. You took a different lane on that.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. I think the bullying that happened in school was just like, you just get tired of that, and eventually, you know how it is. Like, nowadays it's a little bit different. When we went to school, you had to face the bully. You might have to fight him every single day, maybe for a year, until finally he got enough or you got enough and y'all go ahead and squashed it. But at home, it's just that competitiveness. It's like, man, the food coming to the table, my brother tapped me on the shoulder, I turn, chicken wing gone. I tap on this shoulder, boom, cornbread gone. So, you kind of just have to understand, like, being the youngest. And also you get a chance to learn from your brothers and sisters. So, like, we go play football in the yard. My brother throw the ball up, run under my legs, I fall on my back. You know what I mean? You're just a young kid. So I think it was a bullying, but it was a level of toughness that they taught me. And it wasn't like, so much picking on. It's just you're the youngest of 7. So you always gonna get the last of the last. And eventually you kind of had to, like, just kind of learn that little bit of Yeah, so from the fullback standpoint, from the mentality of a fullback, we were finally placed in Alabama, and I started playing high school ball. I was pretty much played every single position, and then I was a tailback until I went to Auburn, and that's when I started to get into that mentality of, like, I just need to find a place to make it on the team, and that's when I went out for fullback.
What year did you start?
So my first year ever really playing football was 86, 87.
Junior, sophomore?
Yeah, sophomore. So I was a tailback then.
Okay.
Yeah, sophomore. And then finally we went, I got a scholarship to go to Auburn.
You had to be good. I see you flaunting your mug the whole time. We did thump y'all this year, and I do appreciate the fact that you showing that Auburn mug, because us state penners, we enjoy looking at the fact of when we beat somebody from that SEC. I digress. I don't want to turn this into a trash talk moment. Linebacker, fullback, it could go left. Talk to me about how you had to be really, really good, T. Rich, like, to get a scholarship offer in Alabama,
man,
to end up going to Auburn, and you played multiple sports. How much do you think playing multiple sports, being a lot of times football players or football coaches love seeing how well guys can play basketball because of that agility and that mobility in a different type of sport. How much do you think other sports played a part in you getting that look to get a scholarship?
Yeah, I think for me it was everything, because the town we finally moved to was Fort Rucker, Alabama. 2 traffic lights, 110 kids in my entire graduating class. So it was a small town, and that's really all we had was sports. And so, I did powerlifting, baseball, football, ran track and all that. So I think, and it's funny you asked that question, because a lot of parents ask me quite a bit. It's like, should my kid only focus on football? And I'm like, no, your kid should play everything, because one, you just don't know what's going to be the sport that they're going to enjoy the most, but also it starts to work different muscles and building different things. Like, I think the basketball and the track obviously helped me with my speed and coordination, all those kind of things. And then football, obviously, you know, people always say, how'd you choose football? I'm like, to tell you the truth, football chose me. And, you know, then I just started to get a lot of notoriety. And that's how, to lead back up to your question, Auburn came down. I think they came down to one of my basketball games.
There you go.
Saw me jumping out of the gym. They was like, man, I don't know where this cat played. And they started looking at the football film. And that's how everything started to roll.
Word. So you get to Auburn. If T. Rich goes to Auburn today,
Yep.
the NIL has changed. The transfer portal has changed. So now basically college football has become pro sports in some type of way, manner, shape, form. Maybe not so much from payroll, but from opportunities to and you know, advertising and monetizing yourself. And just like coaches, they can come and go as they please with no penalty. How would T. Rich have handled going into this college atmosphere?
Yeah, you know, it'd been different because that transfer portal to me, like, it's something obviously we didn't have, but it would have been different because my junior year, they were trying to play, you know, another fullback, and they really didn't give me a lot of burn. And I don't know if
You'd have been up out of there.
You know what I mean? It's a chance. And then obviously, I think you remember, so my junior year was 92. Auburn got put on probation. That's when Coach Dye had all the stuff going on. So a lot of times probation, we were undefeated my senior year, 13-3.
And can't do anything.
And can't do anything. So we didn't get a chance to play. So a lot of cats probably, Wayne Gandy, you know, Bostic, a lot of cats probably would have, you know, hopped in that portal just to get an opportunity. So it's, you know, it's kind of hard to decide because to me, I'm more of a person who wants to stay there to compete. You know what I mean? Because I think now the portal allows you, like, okay, I'm the quarterback, but they just signed 2 new quarterbacks. I want to play. Maybe I'm not good enough. You know what I mean? Because then it's kind of like, am I leaving because I feel like these cats are on my butt, or do I want to stay there and fight to keep my position? So, you know, I don't fault kids because you got to do what's best for you and you got to do what's best for your family and making no decisions. You know, I don't know if my dad would have let me, because he told me once they dropped me off, there's like, ain't no coming back. So
ain't no coming, right.
Ain't no coming back.
Right.
So it's hard to say, yep.
What about the NIL? How would you're a good-looking dude? Again, there would have been some type of angle that people would have taken, you could have taken in terms of monetizing yourself. And you have monetized yourself, and you have done a great job of building a strong, clean brand. How would that have resonated knowing that you could monetize yourself?
Yeah, that's a whole different game, man, because that was the thing that, you know, a lot of cats, you know, Auburn struggled with. Like, thankfully, my parents were there. It wasn't like we were rich, but, you know, some of the cats that I played ball with, man, I used to have to loan them $5 just to take their girl to lunch or go to dinner or something like that. So I think it definitely changes the landscape of just the ability to, like you said, monetize yourself. Because we be sitting there, we're like, man, we make it, because we see the stadium, we see the Winnebagos coming in on Wednesday, Thursday. The money is there, and then all of a sudden we trying to scrape dollars just to get a cocktail or something after a game. So I think it's good for the game. I hope it doesn't take away from the, you know, because you look at a kid like the quarterback at Alabama, he making $1 million a year now. Yep. So the incentive, I mean, he may want to play pro ball, and by the time he retired, he might have a couple million in the bank. So it's just, you know, which is good though, because, you know, you put everything on the line. So, you know, I don't know how I would have forced my decision as far as what school I would attend it, but it definitely made things a lot easier while I was there.
Right. Yeah. All right. So you were a 3-year starter. You end up going into the league. Was there a moment in time that you can think of that gave you like that epiphany, that clarity, like, I can make it to Auburn, I can play at Auburn, I can make it to the league and play in the league? Did you have a moment, or was it just a collective belief and buy-in that I can just work myself into it?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of the upbringing at Auburn, because when I got to the Dallas Cowboys, obviously undrafted free agent, the coaches that knew something about Auburn, because Tommy Agee was there, who's Emmitt Smith's best friend, fullback. And so they were like, man, there's something different about them guys from Auburn. Just because, same thing with Penn State, you know, like the mentality you guys had there, when you got to the league, you were like, oh man, this is all we got to do. So we had 4 days. You know what I mean? And 3 of them was in pads. And so that mentality, like, man, this is it. Oh, we got 2 practices a day. Okay, I'm good. So I think it was more the mentality of this, that toughness and that grit of like, I can make it. Even though my first year I was on practice squad, I knew I had something different than a lot of other cats. I just needed the opportunity and just really never gave up. So to answer your question, even in the year 17, I was still looking over my shoulder like I'm still that undrafted fullback out of Auburn, and that's what kept me going for as long as it did. Just I never really got to that moment where I said I made it, because I thought that's when it would have been like, someone would have came and stole what I was trying to get.
All right. You created a standard. There are a few dudes that created a standard at your position. But again, being an upright person, I mean, you are part of the PA. You were always active in a way where people knew your leadership from far and away, even before they even met you. What is Tony Rich's? What is your ultimate legacy in terms of what you represented? And it could be about the game. It could be about life. I always say when I ask the question, if somebody's looking down on your box and it's the end, this is it, what would have you happy to hear the dude saying about you while they're talking about you? What's T. Rich's legacy?
Yeah, it's funny. My pastor always says the same thing. He was like, son, those numbers on, when you pass, the big numbers are 1971 when you were born, and then whatever year you perish, those are the big numbers. But that middle part, the dash, he was like, that's what you should live your life for. And that's what I try to do. I think if you look at it in the totality, I would just want people to know, like, especially the cats that I play with, just that all I wanted to do was serve. And I think that's, the same mentality when you asked about the fullback mentality. Like, you don't go play fullback to be the greatest, or you don't you do be the greatest, but not to be in the limelight or be on the front page or whatever. You just go do your job because that's what you have to do and just serve. So I think my legacy would just be whether if it was making sure guys signed up for their 401k, making sure guys like James Hasty used to grab me and get me to, learn the collective bargaining agreement, serving and fighting for our guys, and being on the executive committee. Because, for me, when I was on the executive committee, I was like, I'm fighting for everybody. I was that guy on practice squad, undrafted. I was the guy who finally became a starter. I was the guy who made a Pro Bowl. I was the guy, do those kind of things. So I'm not just looking at it from one lens. I'm trying to serve, make sure we help all our brothers. So that was the biggest thing, is if it was one of my tailbacks, spending time, studying so they could be great, or helping offensive linemen, or doing stuff in the community. So I was thinking it to be a legacy of service.
Do you promote anything? Like, do you have a nonprofit or anything that you work with?
Yeah, I'm on the board for the board. I'm probably more busy now than I was when I was playing. Right now I'm on the board for the Boys and Girls Club here in Queens. We're building a new club. I do a lot of stuff with Best Buddies, working with kids with intellectual disabilities. Just trying to serve, man. That's, nothing really changed. I do a lot of cycling for, different Jewish organizations or different people who, especially here in New York, because the poverty line is here, and then it's here. Really trying to go into these communities and, trying to serve these young kids and just giving them a positive person they can look at and say, man, he made it, but he made it because of education and, really working hard. So that's pretty much, my legacy that I'm trying to keep going now.
It's an honor and a pleasure, brother. Painless. That's painless, man. Hey, but you're a legend, and you're a legend of legends. And you know what? Fullbacks, strong side linebackers, much the same. We don't get a lot of credit. They don't talk about us in glowing form. They give it to the middle backer. They give it to the running back, the tailback, and it's okay. You accept what your job is and what your mission is, and you do it to the best of your ability, man. And you have always been a dude that I've had the utmost respect for, man. And the way that you handle things, and that went for on and off the field. Just so many great things that people have to say about you. And I always say, when it's a dude that no one has anything really bad to say about, and the first thing they say out their mouth, that's a good dude, that's a good dude. T. Rich, you a good dude, bro. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Always, brother.
Hey, listen, this has been another edition of Up On Game Presents Conversations with a Legend. That's T. Rich, Auburn great, NFL great, and basically an all-around great person. That's what matters the most. So make sure you stay tuned in, subscribe, check out what we got going on any missed episodes, whatever it may be. Download us wherever you download your podcast, and we'll talk to you next week. T. Rich.